From our 22 News Broadcast Center, this is 22 News in Focus. This week, looking at the future of business here in Western Massachusetts. Here's Laura Hutchinson.
Good Sunday afternoon and welcome to 22 News in Focus. I'm Laura Hutchinson. It has been a tough few years economically for the entire country. The real estate bubble burst, the price of gas doubled, and thousands of businesses had to cut back and in some cases close. Luckily in Massachusetts, we have fared a little better than some states, but many businesses are still struggling to stay afloat, and that's why there's a community of Massachusetts employers working to improve the business climate. And that's where 22 News in Focus comes in this week. Today we'll talk to members of the Associated Industries of Massachusetts about the challenges businesses face and what they're doing to create change. Starting us off today, we have Chris Gearin, the Executive Vice President of Marketing and Communications for the Associated Industries of Massachusetts. Thank you so much for being here.
Thanks for the invitation, Laura.
Really appreciate having you. And in just a few minutes, we'll have the chance to talk to the regional director as well, just about some of the local issues happening here in Western Mass. But I want to first start off by talking to you about what the mission is, first of all, of AIM. I understand that there's a number of meetings taking place around the state to really, help businesses statewide. This is the entire state. So talk to us about what AIM is.
Sure. AIM has been around for almost 100 years. It is a statewide employer association. It is a shared enterprise among 4,500 member employers, and those member employers are all over the economic spectrum, from large companies like a Mass Mutual and a Fidelity and a State Street and a Raytheon, down to mid-sized manufacturing companies, down to individual sole proprietorships, people working off their kitchen tables. And our primary mission is to represent the interests of those employers on matters that affect the Massachusetts economy and their ability to succeed in business here in Massachusetts.
And this didn't just come about after the recession in 2008. AIM has actually been around for many, many years.
Correct. The association started in 1915. It started primarily in Western Massachusetts among a group of high-value manufacturers, mostly paper companies, who were concerned, frankly, that the state government in Boston wasn't listening to them and wasn't taking their concerns seriously. So they thought that collective action was the best way to get their point across. So they formed AIM in 1915. And we're pleased that a handful of the original members are still with us.
Wow. And AIM was originally started in Western Massachusetts, but you always really served the entire state.
It has always been a statewide business association representing those issues that really, where employers interact with state government on regulatory matters, the law, and so forth.
So what kind of success have you had over the years that people, may be familiar with? Sure.
Some of the more familiar things that we've worked on, for example, in 1991 was the workers' compensation reform. Back then, the workers' compensation system was fundamentally broken. Rates were going up 25% a year, and injured workers weren't, frankly, being able to collect what they needed to collect. So AIM worked with other players, reformed the system. Rates since that time have dropped about 65%. It's really been one of the key success stories of the Massachusetts economy. 2 years later, AIM was also active in the education reform movement. It's always been clear to employers that a quality education system is really an important part of the economic landscape. So again, we worked with other partners to make sure that the ed reform bill passed and that it was implemented, and that's also been a real success story.
So what do you have working on right now? My understanding is you have meetings happening across the state. Talk to me about what this project is all about.
So we're preparing to celebrate our 100th birthday next year, and we've decided to do it by creating something we're very modestly calling the blueprint for the next century. We've decided to create a long-term economic plan, and what we're trying to do is identify the 2, 3, 4 primary issues that get in the way of economic growth and job growth here in Massachusetts. So we're doing a series of regional meetings throughout Massachusetts. We have an online survey. We're trying to talk to everyone we can who might have good, creative, compelling ideas about how Massachusetts is going to grow economically over the next 10 years, 20 years, and frankly, next 100 years.
Now, is this a survey that only AIM members are taking, or is this everyone?
No, anyone can take the survey, any employer, whether you're a member of AIM or not. It's on our website, which is aimnet.org, and you can take the survey. And the survey is open-ended. It's not a multiple choice survey, and we did that by design. We're trying not to lead the witness. We're trying not to make assumptions about the types of ideas and suggestions that people might have. It's wide open. So it allows people who may have a suggestion that frankly we've never considered the opportunity to submit that. And again, we're doing that because we're not smart enough to have all the answers. We're probably not smart enough even to have all the questions, but we're just looking for feedback.
And you've been doing this for how long now?
We've been into this about a month. So we've done regional meetings, several regional meetings here in the Pioneer Valley. We did one over in West Springfield. We've been interacting with groups like the Valley Venture Mentors to talk about, for example, what kinds of public policy things need to be done to support the startup community. And we were out in Berkshire County at Crane and Company, which again is one of our original members. So those conversations will continue. The timeline is that we are going to create a rough draft of the blueprint for the next century in time for November 14th, when the governor-elect of Massachusetts will come and speak to AIM, and we will at that time give the plan to him or to her at that time.
How do you pour through all this information that it sounds like you're getting in? Because if you have around 4,000 businesses, you were saying, and plus, anyone else can participate, what's the plan for you to go through that information and narrow it down to 3 or 4, as you were saying, some of the top points?
It takes a lot of time. Again, it would have been easier if we had just done multiple choice, pick number 1 or 5, and then it's a whole lot easier.
Sure.
But we're actually sifting through every response we've had. I can tell you that there are some common themes that have come through. I guess the most common theme we're seeing is can't find enough qualified people to run my company. And that really runs the gamut from manufacturing companies to software companies to service companies. So that's clearly going to be one of the agenda items. Another common theme that we're seeing is kind of the attitude of state government toward business not being what it should be. Just this kind of diffident attitude that employers get when they're trying to solve problems. And employers are efficient. They're trying to solve problems quickly, and that doesn't always happen. So those are kind of two of the themes that we're seeing already, but we will go through every single response.
It's interesting to hear about the, not enough qualified workers coming in the door, because you hear about the, unemployment rate. To hear that there are positions open, but there just aren't the people who are qualified to do that is interesting,
It's incredibly frustrating. One of the great ironies of where we are in the economy now, that our unemployment rate is still relatively high from a historical perspective. We have cities and towns that have very large numbers of people who are not finishing high school, and at the same time, within a mile of those high schools, there are employers who are just crying for qualified employees, and frankly, who are offering jobs at very good wages, very competitive wages. So we're trying to figure out ways to make those connections and try and solve that problem.
Are you finding that the schools in the area, aren't offering the, classes and courses that are needed to fulfill some of the need in Massachusetts, or is that not even something that you've really dug into yet? Obviously, this is in the early stages of this project.
Sure. I think it varies. I think the way I'd sum it up is we spoke to a principal at a school, and the way he summed it up is he said, look, what I tell parents is our job is to prepare students for jobs that don't yet exist using technology that has not yet been invented. So it's that whole flexibility, the ability to adapt to change that I think is what we're aiming for. Within that, there are some outstanding programs, great programs around the state, but it's very scattered. So, for example, Westfield Vocational Technical School is really a model in terms of training skilled machinists for manufacturing. So how do you then replicate that model across the state? There are other areas. There are some area employers who are doing great things with interns and bringing young people in, kind of preparing them for the job market. How do we then replicate that so it's not this spotty group of isolated, really good things, but good things that happen statewide?
Well, this sounds like a thorough investigation statewide, talking to all these businesses. I appreciate, Chris Gearing, you coming on and talking to us about AIM and the mission and what you have happening there. And I look forward to hearing. We do have some businesses on our program today just here to talk about what some of their struggles are. And I'm interested to hear what that's all about. But thank you so much for coming on and talking to us about the project. Good luck with that, the Blueprint Project. We look forward to seeing what you come up with. I really do appreciate you being here. And after the break, we'll talk with the regional director who is working with businesses here in the western part of the state. Stay with us. You're watching 22 News in Focus. Welcome back to 22 News in Focus. Today we're talking about the needs of businesses here in Massachusetts with AIM, the Associated Industries of Massachusetts, and how their organization works to help improve the business climate and create economic opportunity for businesses. In just a little bit, we'll hear from two very different businesses about what their struggles are and what they're hoping for from the next administration in the State House. But first, joining me now, we have Dawn Creighton, Western Mass Regional Director for AIM. Thank you so much for being here, Dawn. I really appreciate it.
Thanks for having me. Looking forward to it.
Yeah, so we were just hearing about what AIM is all about, how long this has been around, and about this interesting project that you have happening. This is really an in-depth research project, it sounds like, you know, having the chance to talk to businesses firsthand and actually put it together on a silver platter for the next governor. You know, first off, what are you hearing from businesses? I know that you've really been in touch with those in Western Massachusetts. How are these meetings going?
Well, I have to tell you, I've had a ball doing it. When I found out we were doing this project, I scheduled 25 interviews with CEOs from around the Pioneer Valley. I was very excited. And the first one I went to, I pulled up and I said, oh no. This is going to give this opportunity to just have a complete vent session about everything that's wrong. And I was fully preparing for this to go in a negative spiral path. And I sat in the car practicing how I would turn this conversation around. And much to my surprise, it didn't go down that path at all. It has been an absolutely phenomenal exercise of meeting with people. They're excited to have a platform to be able to share what their challenges are, what they envision solutions are, and they are just elated to be part of the process. They put a lot of thought and depth and energy into this, and it's just been phenomenal. I've had the pleasure of meeting with people out in the Pioneer Valley and in the Berkshires, and I think one of the things that's been so amazing to me is kind of no matter what industry you're in, we're having the same challenges. And I think everybody, you know, industry folks tend to get together and be in their silos and think that they're alone in it, but as they come out of their silos and they're all voicing their opinions and their challenges, it's
Yeah, and we're actually seeing video right now from a meeting in Dalton that happened recently. You've been really all over the place, getting to get a number of different people around a table. So what challenges specifically are you hearing about? You know, we were just hearing from Chris, you know, the staffing. There's an issue filling positions, which I find interesting in and of itself, just because there are so many people looking for work nowadays.
You know, it's interesting. As the regional director of membership for AIM, I spend half my time with HR people and I spend half my time with CEOs. CEOs are looking at the human capital aspect of their business, and the HR people are fulfilling the needs of the day-to-day recruitment. And what we're hearing is just the challenges of hiring, no matter what industry sector. And if you're able to find the people to fill the positions that they're looking for, what they're missing, the skills gaps. And one of the things that no matter what industry, it's soft skills. It is soft skills that people are lacking. The inability to recognize when it's appropriate to be on the cell phone. Oh, you want me to come and work 9 to 5? That's not on my agenda.
Right.
Do you really want me there? They feel like they can make it. So we have a generation coming up that's entitlement. And it's a challenge for HR people and business owners that are saying, I could really expand my business, but is this the workforce in which I want to be able to do it in? And can I do it in this workforce?
Right. I could see that happening. Outside of employment, what else? What is, is there anything with, the cost of doing business in Massachusetts? What else are some of those challenges just besides the people?
A lot of aspects around economic development and feeling like the lack of economic development. I have to, full disclosure, I represent Sturbridge to the Berkshires, so the challenge that I'm hearing is we're not Boston.
Right.
We're competing with Boston. We're competing with Boston talent. The quality of life is phenomenal out here, and we have all the college students. That's grand, but everybody wants to go to Boston. So there's that challenge.
There's the brain drain.
There's the brain drain.
Keeping people
Keeping
here.
So outside of the immediate workforce is the economic development. There's the feeling of, well, we're Massachusetts, we have Boston. We don't need to promote the state. We have Boston, they're coming to us. And I think that, in some ways that's reality versus perception. There is a lot of things that is happening in the economic arena and promoting Massachusetts, but far too often businesses, no matter what shape, size, or industry, are in their business and not seeing what's happening outside of their business because they're too busy running the business to see what's going on in the businesses around them.
I wish I could be a fly on the wall. So what is it like around this roundtable when you have manufacturing companies coming together with, like he was saying, mom and pop shops, What are those conversations like? And are they finding any ways of just bouncing off of each other of ways to do business?
They're bouncing off each other. They're finding reassurance from each other of who's doing what and what's been successful. And that's what's been really neat about this, is really having different business opportunities, getting together and not understanding what the other business did. You might work in an industrial park and you see the sign of Creighton Manufacturing day in and day out, and you see Guerin Manufacturing. You don't realize you're two different businesses, but you have the same needs. So to be able to bring folks together and understand what they're doing and to be able to cross-pollinate ideas has been phenomenal.
How receptive do you expect? Obviously, you don't even know who the next governor is going to be, but how receptive do you expect the State House in general, the next administration, to be to this? When you have people coming to you and saying, here's what needs to be done. When you have a freshman governor coming in, do you have high expectations for this?
We do. We've had all the governor-elects in. We've spoken with them about what we're doing. As in their eyes, we're doing the legwork for them. We're giving them a challenge of saying, here's what the businesses are saying, and it's not just AIM members. This is a program that is sponsored by AIM, but we're reaching AIM members, non-members, every industry sector. So they're really getting a balanced voice of the businesses in Massachusetts, so they're very receptive to it.
What changes do you think that they can, just based off of what you've seen, have you been able to think of little changes that they could make that could make a huge difference in Western Massachusetts?
I would love to say I have the grand answer for that, but right now we've been really focusing on just what are the challenges. We're getting all of those challenges out. So November 14th, when we present this to the governor-elect, we will present the challenges. This is what's so exciting about this project, is it's ongoing. We're not just stopping with, oh, here's the challenges, good luck, see you, let us know how that works out for you. We're going to spend the next year working on these challenges. We're going to bring together groups of, okay, great, thank you for sharing all this information. What do you suggest we do with this? And we'll be providing updates to the business community. I hope you'll have us back again in the spring to be able to share updates as to where we're going. And that's what is so exciting about it, is it's an ongoing process and a platform that just isn't there.
Yeah, like you were saying, this is kind of the cliffhanger right here. I'm kind of curious to see what we end up coming up with. What are some of the things that are happening that's good with businesses? Like you were saying, you walked into that meeting wondering if it was going to be all negative, but hearing that there are a lot of positives happening right now. What are some of those positives that businesses are experiencing right now? And, with just a little tweaking, could it be even better,
What we hear about is the businesses that are going offshore. We're not hearing about the businesses that are coming back onshore. There was a mass exodus at one point with businesses going offshore, and they're coming back. They're realizing it's not as cheap to do business in China anymore. There's issues around quality standards. There's issues around, it's kind of an oxymoron. Everything that businesses complain about here with regulations and compliance, it ends up being the best thing for them, because that's what gives the state of, that's what gives our great country the quality of the product that we do have. And that's what we're hearing, is the businesses are coming back.
And what's sort of the plan now? When are the next meetings? What's your game plan moving forward?
We have continued meetings throughout the month of September. All the dates are on our website. Unfortunately, I don't have them off the top of my head.
Oh, no,
my
that's
apologies.
fine.
But if you go to aimnet.org,
We'll
as
link that
Chris
up.
said, then all of the dates will be there. We're continuing to meet with any groups that want to meet with us and share their voices. And again, every industry, and of course, folks can call us and share their thoughts and their ideas, and we're encouraging folks to go online and participate in the surveys. But what we have found the most valuable is to sit down with companies one-on-one and go through with the answers to the questions that we have, because as they're giving us the answers to the questions, they're giving us real world examples. That is so much more helpful and gives it so much more depth.
And we are going to hear from two businesses now that you actually helped put together. Why did you choose these two businesses? Who we're going to hear from in just a little bit. But why does this sort of show what you're hearing and what's going on?
Both of them I chose because they're very articulate in their challenges. They have a clear focus and a clear mission as to what their challenges are and what they need to do with these challenges. They're two completely different industries, same challenges. Our friends from the YMCA are working with the folks on their team and their workforce issues, and they're working with our future workforce.
Right.
It's a lot of pressure.
Yeah. And it is, like you said, two very different businesses. So I'm excited to hear what they have to say. Dawn, thank you so much for coming on. And we will talk to you after we have the chance to talk to these businesses, just so we can kind of talk about where we're going from here, if people are interested in getting on board with this.
Great.
So we'll talk to you in just a little bit.
Great.
And we will talk to these two business representatives after the break. Stay with us. You're watching 22 News in Focus. You're watching 22 News in Focus. Today we're talking about economic development in Western Massachusetts and statewide, specifically what businesses are doing to develop and expand opportunities, or what they need to be done to help them do better business. We talked to the representatives of an organization that supports Massachusetts business and lobbying and management services. Now we'll be discussing the actual issues that these businesses feel need to be addressed now in order to help the economy recover, help them do better business. It's something you at home may find helpful, whether you have a business of your own or are looking for work. Joining me now, we have Vicki Shrewsbury, the Regional Human Resources Manager of Pelican Products that's located in South Deerfield. Thank you so much for being here. I really appreciate it.
Thank you.
Now, you're located in South Deerfield.
Correct.
Your headquarters are out in California.
Correct.
And you moved here from the South.
I did.
So this must be a challenge in and of itself, having the business so split. And talk to me about just about the business in general.
Well, Pelican Products is the global leader in the design and manufacture of high-performance protective case solutions, as well as advanced portable lighting systems. We are in 19 countries. We have 23 offices and 7 manufacturing facilities around the world. As you mentioned, our manufacturing facility here in South Deerfield has over 350 employees, and our corporate headquarters is in Torrance, California. And worldwide, we have nearly 1,300 employees. So it's a great company to work for. And yes, I did relocate here 4 years ago from Southwest Virginia, and absolutely love the region. I love Western Massachusetts. It's a beautiful place to live and raise a family.
So what are you experiencing? I guess, let's talk about this blueprint project. So you said you didn't get to go to a meeting where there were other businesses, but you were approached by Dawn, who we just had on before this, and got to have a sort of a one-on-one conversation. So what was your response just to the project in general? What was that conversation like?
Sure. Yes, I did sit down with Dawn. We had a one-on-one, and we went through all the questions and just had a long conversation about the challenges that we face. And our primary focus, and this is what I shared with her, is our ability to attract and retain qualified, skilled candidates, both now and in the future. Businesses today have so many challenges that they're facing: increased competition, cost reduction strategies, improved technical competencies, and of course the ever-changing marketplace. But by far, that availability of a skilled workforce is our greatest challenge. When you look at the generations in the workplace today, our baby boomers are retiring, we're getting ready to retire. You have Generation X moving up from there. You have Generation Y, who is either just entered or they're getting ready to enter the workforce, and not too far behind them, we have Generation Z. So it's really important that we take the time now to make sure that the generations coming into the workplace have the skills that businesses need to be successful.
Now, you said hanging on to these employees, keeping them from leaving. What is the trend? Where are people going? I guess when people are leaving Pelican, you know, are they going to another location of Pelican, or are they actually leaving that business altogether and going somewhere else? I guess, where are you losing people to?
It's not so much that we're losing people, it's just that we want to grow the business and add people.
Okay.
So that's really the focus.
And is it business friendly? You know, I guess, what are some of those things that keep you from growing? You know, what do you want the next administration to hear about doing business in South Deerfield? You know, what are some of those things?
Well, I think there's a couple of different things that we would like to see. I think it starts with communication. What are we telling the next generations about working in these skilled jobs? Are we talking about the benefits? Are we talking about the positives and what it means to work in these jobs? Manufacturing, we're seeing a trend of steady growth, which is an absolutely wonderful thing. And so as businesses grow and become even more high tech, then addressing that talent crunch now is important. So for the operators, the machinists, the technicians, even engineers, we need to make sure that we're communicating the positives for that we are investing and promoting the STEM programs, for example, the science, the engineering, the technology, and math programs in our schools and our communities. I'd also like to see a dialogue, and this is one of the reasons why we work with AIM, because they are a voice for us. And having that dialogue between our communities and our schools and the businesses, so that we're asking the question, what do the businesses need? What do they need today, and what do they need in the future? Is it hands-on technical programs? Is it more investment in those STEM programs? So making sure that we're providing opportunities and skills for the next generation is really very important.
Well, that's what Chris was talking about in the first segment of today's program, just how, you know, schools are trying to prepare students for technology that does not exist and jobs that do not yet exist. So a company like yours is very reliant on people who are entering school right now to make this decision almost before they get into college, or if they're already in, you know, tweak that to be something that's changing. You know, how much has the business changed over the years? I mean, you must be in one of those industries that changes all the time.
Yeah, manufacturing is always changing. And I've worked in manufacturing for many years, and you're right, it changes every day. You're starting to see more robotics in the workplace. The technology advancements and the improvements in technology is absolutely amazing. And I don't know that the next generations coming in know that. So we need to communicate it and make sure that they understand this is what it's like to work in manufacturing. These are the things you get to work on, but we need you to have these skills and we need you to have these competencies.
Do you ever actually have a representative from your company go to schools and reach out to students and talk to them, or have students come and take a tour? Is there enough communication between businesses and the classroom, you know, that's to get people excited and even know that it's there?
Good question. We've talked about doing those kinds of things, and we have in the past. I wouldn't say that we've done them a lot, but we have done those programs where we reach out to the students. We also work with the local agencies, the career centers, because they oftentimes have programs with the schools, and so we make sure that we're a partner with those programs.
So from what I'm hearing, you know, what's your part of this blueprint project? You know, what do you want the governor to hear, the next governor to hear, you know, after your interview?
Well, I want them to hear what I just said about the skills in the workforce and making sure that we're preparing those generations now as they enter the workforce 3, 5, 10, however many years down the line.
Focus on the education for sure.
Absolutely. We'd also like to focus on some of the laws and some of the things that are on the books today. For example, the blue laws or the day of rest law. Those are laws that are long-standing in the Commonwealth of Massachusetts. And I'd like to see the question asked, are they still relevant today? Do they are they having the right impact with the business, and what do we need to do to make sure that we have a better balance between the Commonwealth and the businesses?
So you think that the blue laws could actually be holding some businesses back from expanding? Is that what?
Potentially. Potentially.
Okay, Vicki, it is so interesting to talk to you. We're going to continue our conversation with you, but I do want to bring another business on and hear just sort of the difference. They're two very different businesses, and we're going to bring someone on from the YMCA. So stay with us. You're watching 22 News in Focus. Welcome back to 22 News in Focus. Today we've been discussing economic development in Western Massachusetts and what businesses need to develop and expand their opportunities. We've talked to the representatives of an organization that supports Mass businesses and lobbying and management services. We also just talked to Vicki Shrewsbury, who's back here with us right now, representing from Pelican Products in South Deerfield. And joining us now, we have Nick Henshin, the Vice President of Human Resources and Leadership Development at the YMCA of Greater Springfield. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you for having us, Laura.
It's nice having you both on. So we just talked about Pelican, which is a manufacturing-based company, just that may have some different challenges than the YMCA. So I want to talk to you about how you fall sort of in this blueprint project. What are some of your observations? What have you been able to share with them?
Well, we've been fortunate to be an AIM member for many years, and one of the unique things about AIM is how it brings together nonprofits and for-profits, not only within our region but across the state. So, not too surprisingly to some of the HR professionals, there are a lot of similarities between what we're facing and what Pelican is facing. We too see an issue in attracting and retaining long-term talent to our teaching roles, to our service providers out in the community for our outreach programs, as well as our professional staff. We do service 14 season towns, 115,000 people. We have a pretty complex operation with almost 650 staff and more than 720 volunteers this year.
Wow.
So when we look at that overall, our talent retention and attraction is a major piece of our challenges moving forward as a business.
Now, what about the, you really work hand in hand with the younger folks in our community, so what are you, what is sort of going through their mind right now, as you're working with these kids and helping to sort of groom them for the future, what are their interests? Are they moving in the right direction? We were hearing from Vicki just about, being attached to your cell phones and everything, what can YMCA do to sort of, help shape the students as they're moving on?
One of the big items we try to do, particularly as both an employer and a human service provider, where we're looking to build future generations of employees. So one of the things we're very proud of as a YMCA is more than 80% of Americans are a YMCA member or alumni. Of the staff we have working for us, more than 50% got their start as a teenager, either in babysitting or as summer camp and enrichment programs. And where these are so critical is this is where we see the beginning of job skills. So we talk about the appropriateness of the use of technology. The same age group where we see those less than desirable traits begin to take root are the same age groups that we're trying to target to teach new soft skills for the job. One of the reasons we focus on our summer enrichment and babysitting and child development programs is because of the fact that it does require a high level of soft skills and adaptability, which is exactly what Vicki was talking about earlier. We're not just looking for the hard skills. We're looking for those soft skills and being able to move with the environment so that overall, as we're growing our programs, it's not just benefiting us, it's benefiting our local partners. We're proud to have almost 1,000 vendors we utilize a year. Now, we realize that the majority of those vendors aren't going to be necessarily in Western Mass, but throughout the state, throughout the northwestern and northeastern parts of Connecticut. So we really do have a community responsibility because we try as much as possible to keep our contracts local. That's only going to happen if we can begin to provide the talent base for other companies by teaching these softer skills really in that 14, 15, 16-year age range. Once we hit 18, 19, 20, we're already seeing some of those less than desirable behaviors taking root. So if we can get to that at an earlier age, that's a major, major piece for us. And the final piece I'd like to emphasize is our work with early childhood. A lot of people don't think of pre-K, kindergarten, first, second grade as a key point. But one of the striking items we found over the last 5 years in a partnership with the state was that someone's literacy level at 2nd grade could determine the likelihood of them being employed at the age of 20, could determine the likelihood of them being in a penitentiary, and could determine the likelihood of them being above the poverty level. That is shocking because we focus on our high schoolers so much, and we need to. But really, the quest for a stronger labor pool does start from day one.
What are some other soft skills that you were talking about? You know, we've sort of heard both of you mention the soft skills, but you know, and we've heard about the, you know, getting off your cell phone, you know, at work. But what are some of these other soft skills that you're seeing the younger generation sort of latch onto?
Well, I would say time management.
Okay.
The ability to work as part of a team, communication face to face versus through social media is a key one.
I would definitely have to echo, especially that face-to-face communication. That is so critical for so many of our youth, and many of them haven't had that experience. So watching out as we grow up our next generation, and even the ones following them already, we're concerned that they don't have the normal trends of socializations that we usually see. The other softer skill is, you know, it's a really vague category, but maturity level. So what is their ability to handle emotional conflict? What's their ability to handle conflict at work, at home? More and more, we're finding that our younger staff do bring their home life into the workplace. Now, as an employer, we do everything we can to support that and work with that, but we also need to be realistic and know that although, in our case, we're a nonprofit and we have to have a heart for people, we also have to have a mind for business. Because it's great that we've been around 164 years, but that didn't happen by accident.
Right. You want to be around for another 164 plus
I would
years.
love to.
So what, you know, hearing the two of you, you know, when you hear these businesses come together, what are some common underlying themes that you think that they could take away? You know, you even mentioned pre-K, you know, so maybe universal pre-K is something that you're very much behind. But what are some other, you know, even the cost of doing business, you know, operating within the town and having communications with the schools, you know, what are some of these ideas that you've had yourself, having these conversations, talking to other businesses, talking to Dawn, that you've sort of been able to say, like, hey, if the next governor can hear these ideas, we think that, you know, many businesses can sort of benefit from this. So what are some of these other ideas? Of course, there's a communication with education that we've heard a lot about this program, but what are you know, just some of those ideas that you really think would help do business better?
I think an overall nice way to sum up would be building community partnerships, not just at the municipal level, not just at the state level, but really at the regional level. So when we're looking at the Pioneer Valley, when we're looking at the Berkshires, when we're going towards central and eastern Massachusetts, and understanding what that means. We can't define our geography, that's long past us in our American history. What we can define is what each part of our geography brings to the Commonwealth. And when we're looking at it, these community partnerships can play a major role. A great example, just a moment ago off air, I was talking with Dawn about whether or not Pelican might be interested in something they can exchange with our high school students, to have them come in and expose them to what manufacturing is, because it's not what it was even 5 or 10 years ago.
Correct.
And many of these youth don't understand that. They say, I'm great with tech, I must be in IT. Not necessarily. There are a lot of opportunities, whether you're looking at serving with our country in armed forces, whether you're looking at serving in manufacturing, or even at the education level. We work very closely with the school departments at both Springfield and Chicopee, and one of the highest needs is folks who not only have the social and soft skills, but the skills with technology. And that is something that the next generation can offer us, and that I'm hoping we can learn something from.
And what about resources and communication with the state? I mean, AIM is really sort of your avenue to get your thoughts to the State House. You know, do you feel that there is good communication with businesses and state leaders, even without this third party? You know, obviously this is a great way to compile this. It sounds very unique and an interesting project, but how do you feel that the communication is with state leaders and businesses across the state?
Well, I think there's always an opportunity for improved communication. Every business can say that. Can we do a better job of communicating? Absolutely, and I think there's lots of opportunity to improve those communications and make sure that the dialogue is open between the businesses in the state.
And as far as resources available go, you know, just talking about, you know, a lot of the classroom and the education portion, but are there other resources that you think that there are just shortfalls in the state, whether it's statewide or here in the western part of the state? You know, what does Boston have that we don't have that helps their businesses? Any resources like that available or not available?
When we're looking at, you know, both geography and the resources, so I'll focus on the resources section first. One of the great items we have in the Commonwealth is a number of worker training programs. However, they are primarily focused on the for-profit part of businesses. It's critical that we recognize that nonprofits provide a shadow business sector for this Commonwealth. So right now, most nonprofits are self-insured with the unemployment fund. That means that of the 10 possible grants available, we can only apply for one of those training opportunities.
Really?
So when we look at that, that is critical to us because we say, you know what? We would love to partner with manufacturing. We would love to work with them and help develop the next generation and really create this long-term pipeline. But we look at the available funding, and it's just not allotted there. And I struggled there. I was at a regional conference, and we heard that for the 4th year in a row, this fund has barely hit 80% utilization. So the money is there. So when we look at our budget, it's great that we do have surpluses in local regions, but it's critical that we make sure we're not having that surplus because we're cutting back on growth. So seeing that expansion of those training opportunities would be a major piece for us. The other piece, you know, to kind of talk about what Boston may have versus Western Mass, Western Mass has cost of living. And, you know, in my previous life, I was responsible for supporting 5 or 6 metro areas, including Boston. And there are items out there that, you know, I would love to see brought over to Western Mass. For example, the expansion of biopharmaceutical. We have ample opportunity out here in Western Mass. We do have some of the talent workforce. Vicki had mentioned earlier about all the colleges in this region, and many of these kids going back out to Boston.
Back out to Boston.
Imagine the opportunities we would have if we could bring some of them out to here.
Have them out here, right. Not everything needs to be located in Boston, in other words, yeah.
And I think that's a communication piece, making sure that those next generations, that they can see how attractive and what a healthy, wonderful, safe place Western Massachusetts is to live and raise a family.
Excellent, and that's a good note to end on. Nick and Vicki, I want to thank you both so much for being here and talking to us about your business and your challenges. We hope to see some of your ideas on this blueprint when it is submitted. And we are going to talk to Dawn once again, just kind of wrap the program up and talk about how you at home can get involved if this is something you're interested in. So stay with us. You're watching 22 News in Focus. You're watching 22 News in Focus. Today we've been discussing the economy and what businesses need to succeed in our area. We talked to 2 business representatives about their experience and what they hope for the future. Now back to respond to some of their ideas and concerns, we have Dawn Creighton, once again, Western Mass Regional Director for AIM. I want to thank you again for being here and selecting those businesses. So again, you know, talk to me about the just difference of the businesses that you're talking to and the different ideas you're hearing. You know, this is something that you must be seeing at all of these meetings now.
For the ones that I've participated, again, this is a statewide issue through our economic blueprint. We're representing the entire state. I represent Sturbridge to the Berkshires, so I'm getting the Western Mass slant, and every part of the state has a little bit of a different twist.
Sure.
Certainly all across the state, it's workforce issues. It's finding the key employees. It's working with the schools. It's really, what are we doing with our future workforce, and how can we bridge those gaps of communication between the school systems, the businesses, and as Vicki indicated when she was talking, there's some blue laws that are really not necessary, and those are really impacting businesses, and it's really time to take a look at those and dig into those. And we've gotten a lot of great examples of what's just not relevant anymore and how it is impacting business and holding business back, and there's simple things like that we can address.
I thought that was interesting when she said that as well, actually. You know, you don't always think about some of the laws that have been on the books for so long, but, you know, how some of them may not be helpful to at least expanding in the times. And one thing that, you know, Nick was talking about is money that's available that may not be utilized or utilized, you know, in the best way possible. Is that also something that, you know, people are just hoping to tap into some of these funds?
It's the old perception versus reality. We have there's a workforce training grant that, as long as you pay into the unemployment fund, you are qualified to apply for a workforce training grant. That is money that you've paid into, provided you are a for-profit business. A lot of businesses are not necessarily utilizing that benefit because they say, oh, there's got to be a tremendous amount of paperwork, forget it, let's just bypass. In reality, there's enough sources out there that can help you write the grant, help you implement the grant, and AIM is one of them. There's a lot of other providers out there, but I think a lot of the benefits that businesses have tend to feel more daunting, so they tend to stay away from utilizing them.
But that could be really beneficial because, as we were hearing from Vicki, you know, they have very specific positions that, and as manufacturing is changing over the years, their need changes, and this is happening all the time. You know, it sounds like manufacturing is just simply not even what it was maybe 5 years ago or 10 years ago. You know, and so that could be helpful. They can really cater some of that training to be exactly what they're looking for.
Absolutely.
And lead into employment.
Absolutely.
So how can people learn more about this Blueprint project? When do you expect to present it to the next governor? Talk to us about where you're going from here.
Well, they can go to the website, aimnet.org, and on there is a little button that says you want to help be part of the solution, and click on that, and there's a survey. They can certainly reach out to any members of our staff. We'll gladly meet with you, go through the survey with you. We hope to, in the beginning to mid-October, close out the survey. We'll continue to certainly listen to people and what their challenges are, but for this particular survey, we'll pretty much start collecting all the data, which I'm glad I'm not the one that has to do it because it's a lot of data.
It's going to be a lot to go through.
As Chris indicated, it's open-ended questions. It's not A, B, C, or D to be able to compile that, so it's going through a lot, but it's with such a consistent theme, I think it will make it a little bit easier. What will then happen is we'll compile all that data, and the first thing that we're doing, we're not looking at the solution, we're not looking at how to get to the challenge, we're looking at what is the challenge. November 14th, we will present a couple challenges to the governor-elect. They have agreed to come to our event on November 14th at the Westin in Waltham. We'll present our challenge. They perhaps might say, what have I got myself into?
Oh my gosh, they're like a week into the job at that point. Say, I need to rethink this.
But we're really excited because we will then work with our member companies to, throughout the course of the next year, find solutions and find ways to help the administration work with the business community to solve these challenges together. And that's what's so exciting about this, is it is an ongoing process. It is finding solutions. It's not just a handoff of good luck, welcome to the job.
And how quickly is this survey to fill out? I guess, what is the brief scope of what the questions look like and how long it takes?
There's 13 questions, and they might feel a little bit redundant because the first question is, what is the challenge facing your business now? What is the impact of this, and what's the solution? And then the next set is, what's your long-term challenge? Some businesses, their short-term challenge is their long-term challenge, so it feels a little bit redundant. But those businesses that are like us, looking into the next 100 years, looking into the next 25 years, they have a clear answer as to what's now and what's going in the future.
If anything, it gives businesses a voice, though. There's people who are very busy, but they can simply log on, and you said just do it electronically, right?
Just do it electronically, or we'll certainly meet with them and go through it with them and help them fill it out. I think that's part of what's a little bit daunting to us, looking at it saying, oh. So if we meet with folks, we actually do the easy work for them. We take the notes, we look back and say, is this really what they said? And that's what's been the hardest for me, making sure when I'm articulating the survey questions that I'm using it in the voice of the member company or the non-member company that has provided their
Dawn Creighton, it's so nice to talk to you. Good luck with the Blueprint project. It is so exciting. We'll see what comes out of November 14th, you said, this event, when you're presenting it.
We hope you'll come.
Yeah, and we'll see what the governor-elect's reaction is to it and what the plan is. So thank you so much, and good luck with everything.
Thank you.
And we will have the last word for you after the break. Stay with us. You're watching 22 News in Focus. You're watching 22 News in Focus. Over the last hour, we've been talking about doing better business here in Massachusetts. We talked to members of the Associated Industries of Massachusetts about what challenges businesses face in Western Mass and their plan to lobby for change. That is our program for today. We want to thank our guests for joining us. Thanks to you at home for watching. We hope you heard something that may be helpful for you. If you missed any of it, you can watch it in full on our website at wwlp.com. And from all of us here at 22 News, we wish you a wonderful Sunday.